It's live. Welcome to Life Journey Production Studios. Sorry for that faux pas. You know, we practice these things. We use our ATEM minis all the time, and we still make mistakes with them. So I'm watching myself right now in the live view jump off my chair and go unmute my mic. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me turn this off. I would love to hear your questions tonight if you are on live with me. If you are watching this delayed, this is live on YouTube, and I just did a live on Facebook. It's not a down shot at YouTube. I love my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for so many of you subscribing. It's growing exponentially, and I'm trying to help the best I can. So tonight we are going to focus specifically on Blackmagic Design. I'm going to give you a little demo of what's changing. There's an announcement yesterday, so right away, stay tuned. We're going to be, unlike a lot of the channels that I've watched already that have talked about it, I want to go to the website, Blackmagic Design, and show you what they're doing. If you know any of the history about this channel, I have been demoing and showing different things that I have in my studio. I own an ATEM Mini Pro. So I am an owner. It was not sponsored. I do not have sponsors for my channel. I do not have enough subscribers to monetize my channel. So all of my energy and effort has been in trying to help people, save them time, and just discover the things that they're trying to discover on social media. And there's lots of people out there you can listen to. So if you like their voices better than mine, go subscribe to their channel, like the stuff that they're doing. I can tell you that it is a labor of love, anybody who is doing this, and especially in the day we end today. So I'm joined by my lens, two lenses here. I have one of my three monkeys, and this is my feeling last night when I remembered that there was this live event, and one of my YouTube heroes, Aaron Parecki, if you're out there, I appreciate you so much and what you teach us every week on your channel. And so his alert popped up on my phone, and I went, oh, that's right. Today is Blackmagic Design's release day. It's when they let us know what they've changed, and they've done some incredible things. They had 3 new products that they talked about. We're only going to focus on one tonight. And that is what they're doing in their Blackmagic Mini or Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini Line. There's 3 already, and you can see by my title tonight that there has been some changes. So let's pop up the lower thirds here instead of the still image. And so right now I just changed from my still image in my media player to my lower thirds, and so now when I turn this back on, bang, there's the lower thirds. I could have put it in ready view, and it would be over on the left-hand side of my program preview, and then I could have switched and it would go live, but I just love to drag and drop them in there. So I can literally, while I'm talking with you, I can drag the still image back up there, and now all you can see is me in my reaction in front of the TV or my lower thirds. And so again, the ATEM Mini products, they're amazing. When the ATEM Mini came out, a little background, about 1.5 years ago, I didn't even know about it. It's when I started doing research and wanted to have multiple cameras available, because I owned at that time 2 Canon cameras. If you're a Nikon or a Sony person, shout out to you. I'm recommending the Sony camera right now for small venues. The A6400 as a great tool. They can buy for under $100 or with 2 lenses just over $100. And I think it's a great camera. So shout out to all those cameras. Blackmagic Design has a line of cameras. I would love to own those. I do a lot of photography as well as videography, so I've stuck with the cameras that do both, and obviously they don't always do both as well, and that's the downside of it. So if you're gonna just do live video production, I would say dive in and get yourself a Blackmagic camera, and they announced a pro version of the 6K with some great new features. It's got a tilting screen, and so we'll talk about that maybe in another video. That's the camera eventually that I would like to own for video production, and for a number of reasons, which we'll talk about later. So the ATEM Mini had 4 HDMI inputs. Let me pop up this other screen so you can get a chance to see it while I'm talking about it. So, and then we'll bring up our picture-in-picture, get rid of our lower thirds here. So here you have Blackmagic sight. So I'm going to change mice. I'm looking to my big monitor right here. So you are looking through my second camera. and it shows you my big screen TV. And so let's just go down through there. I wanted you to see me at the same time. So this is Blackmagic's website. If you haven't been there yet, I would highly recommend that you go. There's my mouse. And so I have gone on blackmagicdesign.com. And you can see that I'm under products and under their product page, and they have lots of products, so check it out, including the cameras. And they have been around for a long time. They're in the production side, television studios, all that stuff. And recently, they must have had intuition, right, of what was going to happen around the world. It's not just a United States issue. COVID is a worldwide issue. And obviously, because of that, they have responded because lots of people are streaming at home. And the ATEM Mini Pro was the perfect webcam. Literally. So let's scroll down here. And there it is. The ATEM Mini had 4 HDMI inputs, and let me just walk you through the screen. You had 2 audio inputs. Here's how you can control them. Audio channel 1 on or off, so I could put a lapel mic here, a feed from my board, right? If I had a soundboard for a live venue, for a wedding, or for a concert event, or if I just wanted to have my band record and stream, I could buy an ATEM Mini and I could have 4 different cameras, one on the lead singer, one on the bass player, one on the guitar player, one on the drummer, or a wide shot and add a keyboard player and, you know, who knows, a guitar player all in one shot. So you had input 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you had 1 HDMI out, and that was program only. So what you're seeing right now, this picture-in-picture, you would see this out of that particular HDMI out. They did not have a multi-view, and what a multi-view will show you, it'll show you the audio, it'll show you the streaming, it'll show you the recording, how that's going. It'll show you how you're doing on air. Like right now, I can look at my multi-view and I can see that where our data rate is 5.2 megabytes per second and that my cache is okay. I'm streaming this picture up to YouTube and it's 1080p. When I was on Facebook earlier, they downscale it to 720p. And then later I think I can actually download the 1080p version, but what they broadcast is 720p. But right now I am broadcasting to you in 1080p. It only does, ATEM Mini Line only does up to 1080p, but those HDMI inputs, right, 1, 2, 3, and 4, they automatically detect whatever they plug into it. And it just takes a fraction of a second. And then it makes sure that everything's together and lined up. You don't have to buy converters. You don't have to set everything. So it's perfectly the same frame rate and all that stuff. So you could plug your 4K camera into it and it's going to encode it to the same resolution of all the other cameras. And then you can switch back and forth to those cameras. And like right now, I can live switch back to camera 1 and have picture-in-picture there as well. Or I can go back to camera 2 and have camera 1 in the picture, and I can have camera 2 as the main shot of the screen. So it's great. So, and I don't want to go over all of this, but I think it's important to show you where it started and how cool it was. And then people started asking for changes. So now here's your HDMI port. You could also go from the USB-C port right here into your laptop or your PC, both Mac and PC, and then you could use it as a webcam. So you could take a really high-end camera like the Sony A6400. You may have a Canon 5D Mark III, which you can stream for up to 29 minutes and so many seconds before it shuts off. Now they have cameras like my EOS R that I'm looking at right here that will go on if I have a battery in it and I turn all of the timeout stuff off, it will go on forever. And now you can have the quality of a high-end DSLR picture with those lenses, and you can use that for live streaming. So I'm a little dark tonight, not quite, a little bit more flatter than I normally am because I wanted to keep everything set so you could perfectly see the screen. And you can go to Blackmagic's site tonight and you can look at this yourself. So the ATEM Mini Pro could be used as a webcam. It had no recording inside the box. It had no encoding inside the box. And so many people started asking for a program view so they could see what was getting ready to go on the air. They could also see what the other cameras were showing, and you could choose which camera you wanted to switch to. You would have to just switch it in the ATEM Mini and hope for the best. You didn't get a chance to preview it. And companies came out with monitors so you could come out of the HDMI cameras into that monitor, come back out into the ATEM Mini Pro, and there's monitors out there where you can have 4 inputs and display 4 pictures in pictures or 2 pictures in pictures side by side. And I have a monitor like that, the BenQ 4K 32-inch in my studio, and I can send it 4 different pictures. But this monitor by CTEK actually had HDMI back out again, so you could go into your ATEM Mini, and now you could see all 4 pictures. So you could still go that way. You could buy an ATEM Mini for $295, and you could buy that CTEK, I think it's almost $400, and then you could have a monitor and picture in picture, but you don't see the audio levels, you don't see the recording, how it's going, and you don't see the on air if you're streaming okay. So there's no warning because you don't get to see that. You only see the program view, and then you would see the 4 inputs that you put in those. So ATEM Mini, lots of cool features. You also had the ability to run the software. So I could plug this in my house on the other end in my network, and I could open my laptop up in here, and I could actually be using my switcher. Obviously, I'd have to run a long cable to my cameras, but I literally could put my ATEM Mini in the other side of the house in my network, and I can run it from my laptop or from my PC through the software that comes free from Blackmagic Design, and that's the control software. And we're not going to focus on that in this video. We will in future videos, but that's the same software they use for everything that they sell that you need to control. And it just adds more and more cameras as you change devices. So ATEM Mini, no buttons here on the side. Over here, you can see it's almost like they were saving the space for other designs. They wanted to intro it and see if everybody liked it. I think they had up their sleeve their next change, which was the Pro. And the Pro added all of this over here on the side of it. It also added an encoder inside the ATEM Mini Pro, and that's what I'm using here in my studio. That means that I can plug it into the Ethernet port and not just control the software. At the same time, I can send it out to YouTube, send it out to Facebook, one location at a time, and I could actually plug in the new streaming bridge by Blackmagic Design. I can plug that in my network, plug it into the TV in my living room, and I can choose that as a location. So instead of going to Facebook or YouTube, if I needed to have 2 rooms full of people for a training event here in my house or in your business or your church or a wedding venue, and I had multiple monitors, I could then send the program, the same thing you're seeing, I could send that with 1 second delay to the ATEM streaming bridge, plug it the HDMI out port into the TV, and I have audio and video. Whatever is on the program view that you're seeing right now would be the same thing that they would see. So I could have another monitor for someone in the studio with me as a conference monitor and use it for that. So now I have 2 ways to get a picture out to people. I have the multi-view and I have that extra camera view, but it only shows what's on the program. Whatever I put in this picture you're seeing right now, it sees. It would not see my other cameras. It would not see any of those other functions. So again, that's the Pro, and you could also record out of the USB-C port. So if you were not using it as a webcam, like you could in the ATEM Mini, you could use the USB-C into your PC, and you could actually use it as a webcam for Zoom, for OBS, which is a free broadcast software that you could download today. And it's very, very intuitive, very, very powerful, has a little bit of a learning curve, but it's a great tool. And you could use that to do lower thirds. You could use it to play videos, all from your PC, and you could stream right from your PC or your Mac using that USB-C port. But the ATEM Mini Pro gives you the ability to stream directly from it. So now you have a key button on it. You have a record because you could plug into that USB-C port the SSD, and you could record the program view. So I could be streaming on Facebook knowing it's 720p, and in case I make a mistake or I want to have a version of that, a copy of it, and I want to have it right on a hard drive, then I can record right to an SSD. And if you buy a certain hub, you can have multiple SSDs, and they'll automatically switch. When one's full, the other one will flip over, and Blackmagic Design sells a rack that you can put 4 SDs in, and I think there's a couple approved hubs that you can use and plug in SSDs, and it'll automatically switch without losing anything in a live event. So for weddings and long play concerts, that would be a great tool, even in the ATEM Mini Pro. You can't do that in the ATEM Mini. You can only encode inside it, broadcast from it through the Ethernet port in the ATEM Mini Pro. So let's go back up here. So you've added all these new buttons. We'll look at those again. And now this port doesn't just give you the ability to broadcast from it, because you have a built-in encoder that will encode at H.264 and send it out to YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. But you can also use this port to control the software. And now you have two things you can do with the USB port. You can record to an SSD drive, or you can choose to use it as a web camera into your laptop or PC or Macintosh. And so again, so you have these extra buttons. You have the on-air button, and it goes red when you are on air. And then you have a record button, so you can start recording. And then you have the ability to turn your key on and off right from here. And then you've added these buttons right here. That's your new program view, multi-view. So I can say I want a multi-view and see everything, my 4 inputs, as well as what's previewed and what's programmed. And let me explain that real quickly to you, because I don't have an example of that. Well, yes, I do. Let's pop down here on Blackmagic's design site. Find their multi-view little picture here. So here's your multi-view. So I can see my audio levels, I can see preview and program. So this picture right here would be live, and this picture over here would be preview. So this is what I'm about to put on live. I can throw a lower thirds graphic down here and make sure that's the right graphic I want. And then I can just switch over, either cut to it directly, or I can do an auto dissolve, and I can set, you know, half a second, 1 second, or even longer right from the front of the ATEM Mini and the ATEM Mini Pro. So then I also have the access to my audio settings. This is the on-air quality YouTube. So you can see that that cache is actually storing some of the show. I don't have any cache going on right now. And then they have 2 drives ready to record. And then here's their graphic from their media player that's already loaded and ready to go on air. And I have my lower thirds loaded right now and ready to go on air. So again, so what was the big announcement? We have the Pro, we have the ATEM Mini, then they went to the ISO, and the ISO would let you record the 4 inputs, right? The 4 HDMI inputs and the program view. And that's amazing. So now if you wanted to take a file that it creates after your recording's done, if you initiate this, if you turn it on in the software, when you're done, you can open up a file in DaVinci Resolve and you can actually change your edits. So if you didn't like that you cut to that particular camera, you can cut over, you could drop in your graphics, and you could edit the final version for release on your website. It could be a feed-based video that you only have on YouTube for live. And then if anybody wants it later, you could actually have them go to your website and do a subscription. So you want a high quality version of that, and you want to fix all of the mistakes that you made. Like I made a mistake tonight in turning the audio on or off. So I could cut that out in DaVinci Resolve. If I had all the files, I could keep my still up for a few more seconds and keep my audio playing. And then I would cut to me when I'm back at my desk. And when you watch that video, you would have no idea, because the ISO version lets you record all the 4 inputs as well as the program view. So you have a reference of what you did, and then you have a reference of what you can replace it with if you make a mistake. And then you can release that in your site, your website, or YouTube, or Facebook, or social media, however you want to. So again, let's scroll back up here, and let's give you the announcement. So yesterday, Blackmagic Design decided they were going to blow my mind and everybody else's mind, and they released this new Extreme. This is the Blackmagic ATEM Extreme. It is Extreme. It has 8 inputs now. That's the biggest change that people will probably recognize. Instead of 4, it has 8 inputs now. You can see there's lots more controls, and we're going to cover most of those here before we go tonight. But you have not only gotten larger, so let me scroll down to the sample screen so you can see how big this puppy is. Oh, we missed it. Scroll back up here. Thank you for having patience. We will find it here. They have a great picture where they compare all three of these. So there you go. There's just all three of the first versions, the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, and the ISO were the size of the one on the left. And now you have this big, gigantic ATEM Mini Extreme. And so the Extreme ISO is available, and the Extreme has all the same features, except for it only records the program out. And the ISO records all 8 channels, and it records the program out. So if you had 8 cameras, or you had 6 cameras, and you had a hyperdeck coming in with fly-in graphics, because you need 2 channels to do that, and that's in a video here on my YouTube channel, so you can watch that, and I'll put a link below. Or you could have 8 cameras, or you could have your laptop plugged into one, and you could take all of those inputs, whatever you played from your laptop, whatever you played from your hyperdeck, and you could mix it down later in DaVinci Resolve. It makes a file, it links all of that stuff together, and here's the coolest thing about the ISO, as well as the ISO ATEM Mini, so the new Extreme ISO and the ATEM Mini ISO. Those two actually give you a file, and you can use the raw files from Blackmagic cameras. So not only can you record in your camera, and you can record from your ATEM Mini Extreme or your ATEM Mini ISO, and then later edit all down together, you can import the raw files from your ATEM Mini cameras, right? Your Cinema, your Ursa, your Blackmagic 4K or 6K, and they announced a Pro version yesterday as well that has some new features. It has a tilting screen, so you don't have to pay to have those modifications done anymore like a lot of people did. So now you can hold it up high and see, aim the screen down, you can hold it down low and aim the screen up. So some great changes, so check that out on Blackmagic Design site as well. But this Extreme not only has 8 ports, but it also has more DVEs. In fact, it has 6 altogether. It can do things that is only, this is why my mind's blown. It can do things that were only available. Just let me switch cameras here real quickly, sorry. It can do what only was available on high-end decks that were $6,000. So you had the ability to have a bunch of guests come in, and you had the ability to have multiple people on the screen at the same time. You now have the ability to put 4 people on the screen. You also have the ability to put a picture behind them. You have the ability to lay graphics over top of those. You still can use your keys, and now you have more than one key. You have multiple keys as well as downstream keys. You have 6 DVEs. You have a audio jack for headphones with the ability to control it from the front of the ATEM Mini. And there's even more features all available. And the difference between the cost of the ISO, the ATEM Mini ISO, which will record all 4 channels, and the program out, is $100. You go from $895 for the ATEM Mini ISO that was the highest you could go in the ATEM Mini line. And now for $100 more, you can buy the Extreme. Think about it. And get all of those 8 channels. You can get all of those 6 DVEs. You can get more keys, upstream and downstream keys. You can get a headphone jack. You get all kinds of new features, all for $100. And if you want to go to the ISO to record all the channels, then you got to pay another $200, $300 to get the ISO version. So let's look at these. The size difference is huge, so it's not going to fit in the same cases. It's not going to fit in the same place on your desk. In fact, I'm looking at my desk right now, and I literally, it's a half again bigger, and it's deeper. So I would have to shift where my microphone mount is on my desk. And so there would be some changes for many of us if we decide to go to this, and I'll talk about what I'm going to do at the end of this video. I'll also explain the tape on my hand. So let's just look at the front of this real quickly, and let me go back so you can see what I'm looking at on the Blackmagic Design site. So we'll go back to camera 2. We'll turn on my DVE. So what I'm turning on and off right now, just so you know, that's 1 DVE, which that means that I can assign any input on my ATEM Mini to that DVE, and then I can move it around on my screen. So, which is really cool. So if I wanted to make it bigger, if I wanted to make it smaller, if I wanted to move it to different places on my screen, I have to mouse it back and forth, but you can see I can literally position this on the other side of the screen. So That's one DVE, and that's all that was available in the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, and the ISO. I want you now to imagine what you can do with 6 of these. So it's amazing. So you can have a guest come on, and you can do that through the ATEM Mini streaming bridge. We don't have time to cover that, but I have a video on the streaming bridge. So I could have 4 of those in my studio and bring in 4 guests and have them all on the screen. And then I could use my other DVD to put me on the bottom, and I could actually be talking to them like the Brady Bunch scenes. I could look up and talk to them, or I could be one of the people in those 4 DVEs. And so let me show you that feature right here. So we're going to scroll up here. Let me show you what you're able to do with those DVEs. Now, having 4 of these was only available on a $6,000 console. And now you can have 4 people on the screen like that on a monitor if you wanted to. You could actually have a gaming event and have all 4 guests on and graphics overlays and stuff behind it. So all of this was done in the Extreme, so you could do that. So if you were a news show, you could have 4 guests, or a podcast, you could have 4 guests. You can actually put yourself down here in picture if you wanted to. That will limit you on some of the things you're able to do, the graphics. And so you can do that. You have the HDMI 1 output, which will give you the program out, but now you have the ability to control what you have up here. So you could have, this is the old view that I have on my ATEM Mini Pro. This is also the view you would have on the ATEM Mini ISO, but now you have 8 inputs. So now you can have 16 different boxes on the screen, and you can change it whichever way you want. So if you want to see your audio settings, you can see all of your channels. So you have 8 inputs for audio, and you have 2 microphone inputs, and you have the program, which is what's going out live during your event. You can see the recording going on the 2 drives. There on drive 1, if it filled up, it would automatically switch over to drive 2. You can see the bit rate of your stream right here, and you can see how much is in your cache, and you can also see what's on Media Player 2. But here's the thing, now you have 2 media players in the Extreme and the Extreme ISO. So that means that you have 2 media players. So one of them could have your lower thirds, and the other one could have your still. One of them could have a background that you're going to use behind your program view. There's all kinds of things that you can do now with the Extreme. It is amazing. Not only do you have the ability now to monitor your audio. So if you're at a live event, you can put your headphones on, make sure your audio is great. And after you make sure your audio is great, you could go live, or someone else could be with headphones mixing from the console, and now they have that missing piece to be able to make sure the audio is great. I'm watching meters right now, but that doesn't mean I can hear clipping or all those things that you would be able to hear with headphones and be able to adjust it on the fly. So it's great now to have an audio jack built right into the ATEM Mini Extreme and the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO. So let's scroll down. So now you have all of these channels. Mine only has camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. Now you've added all of those extra cameras with the ability to have an equalizer, a limiter, all of these effects, and a compressor, all of that available in the software. So a lot of churches were using the ATEM Mini Pro and the ISO like this, a couple Blackmagic Design cameras, and now you don't just have the ability to control those cameras in the software, right, through the control panel on your laptop or your PC. Now you have controls on the front panel of the Extreme and the ISO, and you can control a number of things in the Blackmagic cameras. So if you don't have a Blackmagic camera, you can't control it through the software or from the front of the ATEM Mini Extreme and the ISO. But that's a huge, huge feature available now in the Extreme for those of you that own Blackmagic cameras. So you can actually see the streaming bridge. So I could use the streaming bridge out of my ATEM Mini Pro as well as my ATEM Mini Extreme, and I could go to a projector and project to that, the program. So it's a great feature. Or I could put this in someone's house and I could be a guest there or have one here, and they could stream to it, and I could have them a guest by taking the HDMI out and putting it in one of my inputs in my ATEM Mini or whatever I use as a switcher. So this is a great, great tool. So let's get down here to this beautiful new feature. So there you go, $295 for the first version, $595 for the Pro that I have in my studio. The ISO is $895. The new Extreme that only records the HDMI program out is $995. Literally, that's $100 more than the ISO. And then you have the ISO version, which is $1295. And I have people that I follow on social media, they figured this thing was going to cost, the ISO version was going to be $1,500 to $1,600. And it has features in it that you could only get on the M2 panel. That's the DVEs, to have 4 guests on at the same time or do a gaming event and have 4 gamers on there. And they thought that was going to cost way more than that if they ever added that. And no one was really asking for 6 DVEs for the next ATEM Mini. So I don't think it's a Mini anymore. I think they need to drop it and go to an Extreme line, but that's just my thoughts. And then here's 2 of their panels, and they actually even have an ATEM ME2, which is $6,000, and that panel right there had the ability to do those new DVEs. So again, incredible piece of equipment. I want to finish tonight by covering a few of the items on the front panel so you can have an idea if it's for you or not. So right up here, you can see you have mic 1 and mic 2, so I can raise the volume, I can turn it off or on, and I have channel 1 on right now and channel 2 off. Right next to that, you have channel 2, and now over here, you have your headphone adjustment. So I have the ability to reset it, I can turn it on, and I can raise and lower the volume, and I can also control the headphone from the headphones from the software. Then below that, these are the new controls for cameras. So you have shutter, you have a black control, and all of these focus control and the camera brightness, and you can control that right here from these 2 buttons. So if you don't have any Blackmagic design cameras, then you wouldn't be using this whole row of new buttons. But it's amazing now that you don't have to use the software to control your cameras and a separate screen. You have the ability right there at a live event when the light's changing, and you could adjust that. I just did a shoot where I was inside a dentist office or orthopedic doctor's office, and as we were shooting a live podcast, not a live podcast, but a recorded podcast, the light changed, and I didn't even notice it. But I noticed it was getting a little bit darker. I was doing too much stuff. But you know how nice it would have been to have 2 Blackmagic Design cameras and bring the light up as I lost that window light. It would have been amazing because I did not have my camera set on auto ISO. So, which is a lesson learned. So anyway, so then down here, you have the ability to control all the channels. So I have audio available on every single input. So if I had my computer plugged into camera 1 or HDMI input 1, I have the ability to turn the audio on or off. I have the ability to reset the audio in case I've raised and lowered the volume with these 2 controls and I want to go back to 0. I can hit the reset button, which is really fast in studio when you want to reset your audio before a live stream. And then I have the ability to have audio follow video. That's what this AFV button stands for. That means that when I change from camera 1 to camera 2, that audio doesn't follow it. So the audio, if I have it on, is on all the time. So if I have music playing in the background or I have a video and I want to cut away from it before it's over, or if I'm using a YouTube video and I don't want what's after it playing, I can turn that audio on audio follow video, and when I switch, that audio goes dead, and whatever I have live, it cuts to that. So if I have channel 1 live, and this is channel 1 right here, then I would be right back on the air once that video plays, because I have the audio following the video. If I have both those channels on at the same time, then you're going to hear whatever camera 1 input or HDMI 1 input hears, as well as mic input. So you have 2 mic inputs, and we'll look at the back here in a minute. Then right here is one of the coolest features. This is what blows my mind. Remember all those DVEs we were talking about? Well, here they are, DVE 1, DVE 2, DVE 1, DVE 2. All of these now can be routed to any channel. What does that mean? That means this picture-in-picture, right, that's up on the screen right now, I could bring up that DVE, and I have one DVE, which stands for that little picture that I can assign some input to. So I could have camera 1 in this picture-in-picture. I could have my HyperDeck in this. Whatever I have plugged in the back of my ATEM Mini Pro, I can assign to this picture-in-picture, but I only have one. There's 6 in this new Extreme. So now there's actually a routing matrix. So all that top row are all the inputs, right? So you have 8 inputs plus the DVEs, and then below that you have the DVE. So when I hit that DVE, it will tell me what's playing on it, and it'll go red to let me know that it's live. And right now I have DVE, my one DVE live. And so if I was to click on that on the new Extreme, if I changed right now and put an Extreme in here, I could have exactly what you're seeing right now, but I could add 4 inputs. And so I could literally, just from the front panel, switch inputs. Why is that important? Well, now they have 2 HDMI outputs. So one is the multi-view, or I can make it just the program, or I can look at camera 1, camera 2, camera 3 or 4. Now with the Extreme, you can look at any one of the 8 inputs, right? Through that multi-view, you can look at the program view, but now in the other HDMI output, you can assign anything to it as well. So I could send a confidence monitor to a producer and just show him what he wants to see. So if he wants to see camera 1, camera 2, if he wants to see what's about to play in video, I can literally send that over to his monitor through HDMI output number 2, and I can assign it right there on that little matrix. It's incredible. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but I cannot believe it's available right now on this switcher for $100 more than an ATEM Mini ISO. It's amazing. So again, the panel is the same on the ISO as it is on the ATEM Mini Extreme. This ATEM Mini ISO, which is up on the screen, will record all 4 of these channels. It'll also record whatever is on the program, and you're watching my program view right now. So if I have the picture-in-picture on, you're going to see it. If I was to reach over here and turn the picture-in-picture off, you would see that, and it can record that. The non-ISO version only records what you're seeing right now in the program view. So let's go over a couple more buttons. I love that it has 6 new macro buttons. That's one of the things many people have asked for. So I can program macros. And if you don't know what a macro is, I can go through, turn everything I want on, assign it to that macro button. So let's say I wanted to turn this picture-in-picture off, change back to camera 1. I want to drop in my lower thirds. I could do all that and assign it to that button. So in the middle of my broadcast, if I want my lower thirds on, I can hit that button, and I could assign another button to turn it back to what I want, and that takes up 2 buttons. So 6 buttons is huge. We have no macro buttons currently available on the ATEM Mini, the ATEM Mini Pro, and the ATEM Mini ISO, and we're hoping one day they'll give us a control over some of the other buttons, but right now they gave us 6. So they added more dissolves right here. You can see all of the buttons right here. So I can assign camera 1 HDMI input or 2, and I can play that on the HDMI output, and I can choose which one I send those to. And I can have a clean view, I can have a program view, a multi-view, and it's really, really awesome. So you have 2 program views available because you have 2 HDMIs now. It's mind-boggling. You can time the dissolves right here. You still have the cut button, you have the auto button, and they actually added 2 more buttons down here because you have 2 media pools. What does that mean? Well, right now I have still images, my lower thirds, and I'll demo that to you here real quick so you can see it. So if I go into my media pool, I can put still images in there, right? They can let you put in 20, and you have 2 of those media pools. So if I want my lower thirds on, I can drag and drop it into the lower thirds. I go in here and I turn my lower thirds on. So I'll show you what that looks like. So now if I wanted to put on my still image, I got to go back into my media pool. I got to drag and drop that into the live view, and there is my still image. I can't have them both up at the same time. So if I have my still image up and then I want to change camera angles and drop in my lower thirds, I have to do all of that manually, and then I got to go in here and change cameras. Now with the macros, I can do that for the push of the button. I have 2 media pools, so I could automatically have my macro switch over to my still image. And when I need my lower thirds, I could also reach over and grab my lower thirds. And now with the keys available, I can display both of those at the same time, where right now I have to choose one or the other. So let's review real quickly, okay? I know this is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. 1, you have 8 inputs. 2, you have 2 HDMI outs. They've also added 2 USB-C outs. So now I can use it as a web camera if I want to go to OBS and record the program view. I also can record to a hard drive, an SSD drive at the same time. Before, in the ATEM Pro and ISO, I had to choose. Now you can actually be recording to an SSD, which I'm doing right now. And I can also use it as a webcam. I can't do that right now because I'm using my Pro's USB-C port to actually record, and I can't use it as a web camera. Now I could if I had an Extreme in my studio. They've also added in the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini ISO with a firmware update, as well as the Extreme and the Extreme ISO, the ability to now stream by using the wireless connection on your phone. So if you don't have an Ethernet port and you have a good wireless signal, 4G or 5G, you can literally change the settings and stream directly from one of those USB-C ports. So in my ATEM Mini Pro, as soon as I do the new firmware update, I could then take my ATEM Mini out into a location that I have great cell surface. I don't have to plug it in to the Ethernet port, or I can plug it into the Ethernet port, and if that fails, I could plug it into my phone and it would switch over instantaneously. Or I could plug it over to my phone and I could unplug it from the Ethernet port if there was a power failure. So now you have another way to stream, and that's available on the ATEM Mini Pro and the ATEM Mini ISO. It's not available in the ATEM Mini because that does not have an encoder and that does not stream out to the Ethernet, so it's not available. So again, headphone port, 8 HDMI inputs, 6 DVEs instead of 1, an extra key features, right? And you can check that out on their site. You have the ability to do all of these extra graphics. You have the ability to have 2 HDMI outs. One can be a program view. The other one could be the multi-view, or you could assign different settings on there. And now you can put 16 different things on the screen. And that's what I want to close with tonight. I'll scroll down and show you that picture. It is mind-boggling of what you can display on your program out feed now. And you can pick and choose whichever one of those you want. I'm looking for that picture here. I'll slow down. So on this screen right here, I can have 16 different views. Oh, I better switch to that screen. I apologize for that. Let's take this off and let's put that on the air. I'm so sorry. So here you go. I found it. Now you're looking at it. So I could have 16 different things up here. So not only can I see Media Player 1, I can see Media Player 2. I can see all 8 cameras. And I think somewhere here they have a sample of what that would look like. So I have 2 media pools now instead of just 1, and that's where I was dragging and dropping graphics into the live show. Somewhere here, I believe they have an example of the new multi-view. Sorry, I'm looking for this. I want you to see it before we get off the air tonight. And I know I saw it on their site. So I really encourage you to visit it. Here you go. Here's the multi-view. So you can see now that he has the ability to see the program preview program, you have the 2 media players, you have all 8 inputs, and you can do whatever version of this you want. So he still can see his audio, he can still see the recording, you can still see the on air, and hopefully my picture-in-picture is not blocking this. Let me turn it off just to finish so you can see this. So, so you have all of this available to you right here. So recording, you have on the air to see how well you're doing, what your streaming rate is. If your buffer is filling up, it's at 26%, so he's doing fine. My buffer actually never, hardly ever turns on because I have super fast internet. You can see preview. This is what's about to go on the air. This is what's on the air. You can drop in your graphics. So this is what he's getting ready. This is a little tag up here, a little bug. So you can do a bug now with the Extreme where I can't do a bug and a lower thirds graphic. So he's got a bug ready here. He's got his still image overlay, and then he can see all of the different inputs. So he can cut to the pitcher. He can cut to the guy who's hitting the close-up. He can cut to the reporter. He can cut to the baseman, and he can cut to another reporter. And he can also pop up these 2 DVEs as well. And so it's an amazing, amazing tool. So I think we've covered just about everything that I could possibly cover on this tool. I think it's an amazing tool available for us today. So let me answer the question of the day. Maybe you haven't answered it. Am I going to get a ATEM Mini Extreme? Well, I've been really thinking about that. It does solve a number of problems I have in the studio. I'm probably like many of you who already own them. I'm trying to process that and decide if it's the solution for me. I could tell you that I love the extra DVEs. I do want to use my ATEM Mini to have a guest on, and the only way to do that now would be I would have to position myself on the side, and then I'd have to bring my DVE in, my one single one, and I would have to make it large enough on the other side to have a guest on, and it's just a hassle. I'm not super excited about that. I like the headphone jack, so slowly but surely I'm convincing myself that having at least the Extreme in my studio is something really important. And for live events, once I can do more live events, man, having the ability to record all of the different inputs and correct it later through DaVinci Resolve, and 17 is out and it has some great features. And then maybe down the road getting some Blackmagic Design cameras and using my DSLRs and my mirrorless camera for just photos and on the fly video, B-roll is a possibility. So I'm like you. If I already own an ISO, selling it and spending $100 would be an easy decision, but I haven't bought an ISO yet. I've got $600 invested into my ATEM Mini Pro, but I've also already bought splitters. So I have a splitter and a switch in my studio now as of yesterday. So I can switch between my alpha channel and my hyperdeck, or my camera number 3, which I'm not using tonight. So without having that switch on my desk, I can't do that, but I have to be at my desk to switch that from one input to the other input. So, and it takes a few seconds for that to go. And if I had an 8-channel Extreme, either the Pro or ISO, when I switch, you can see right now, it's instantaneous. There's no glitch. That's my monitor. I mean, there's no glitch. I can switch to it. I can do a slow dissolve like that and bring up my picture-in-picture. Wasn't that cool? I can do a dissolve and make it go away. And I can also do that if I want to set up camera 2 and switch like this, then I can dissolve between camera 2 and camera 1 and take the DVD completely off. So, and with that off, right, then I can switch and go between the 2 cameras that you're seeing. And I have it set up right now so it's switching just between my DVD on and my DVD off, because that's just what I'm doing tonight. So again, I just want to thank you for joining me. If you're on YouTube and you saw this live, thank you for showing up. I'm looking right now to see if I have any questions. So I have Duran on here. Can you have white borders around the boxes in the Mini Extreme Super Source? Yeah, you actually can do boxes around it. So it has the same ability. Go to Aaron Parecki's channel and I'll put a link down here to Aaron. He did an overview with a guy who owns the big console, and he couldn't. It blew his mind that he paid $6,000 to have that ability. So if you're a gamer and you want to use it for that, yes, you can. So thank you so much for that question. And I will be doing some more lives on this equipment here on this channel. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to Life Journey Productions. If you have any other questions, just post them here. I hope you'll like this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I appreciate those of you that already have subscribed. If you don't like this video, it hasn't helped you, then go to a channel and like and subscribe to it. I think YouTube is a great place to learn and grow and educate. That's why I'm doing it. So I hope you appreciate the energy and the time invested in doing that. And again, I want to say my mind's blown. I want to give a great shout out to the guys at Blackmagic Design. While the rest of us have been dealing with so much chaos, you guys have been creating, you've been listening, you've been innovating. You now have an extreme that's perfect name for it because it blows the ATEM Mini Line out of the water now, and it gives people a whole nother tool. In fact, I'm consulting right now for a few locations that want to do some live events, and I have to rethink my plan now because of that announcement yesterday. So Blackmagic Design, 2 thumbs up. Will I get one? Time will tell, but you'll find out right here on Life Journey Productions YouTube channel. So I hope I've answered all the questions. Headphone output, be able to control it. 8 inputs now, 6 DVEs. You can put 4 people on the screen. You can surround it with graphics. You can do a layer behind it with a picture. And if you did not see that, here's, let's go back to the last page. And one more. And let me switch cameras again right here so you can see it. I'm actually getting better and better at this, and bring up my picture-in-picture again. And so we'll end this video by showing you this one graphic here, because you asked during my live event, so you earned it. So here we go. Hopefully I didn't just fly by it while I was busy talking. So you could bring in 4 pictures in pictures. You could put graphics behind them. And then you're talking about putting borders. And here's the perfect example of that. So they have a countdown clock. They actually have these graphics up here. All of this was done on the new Extreme. And then if you buy the ISO, you could be recording all of these guests, and you could do a separate edit later if you wanted to. So let's say you didn't have the ability to bleep someone and they are in your event. You could bleep them in the video footage later. You could bring in, if you're using the ATEM, the Blackmagic Design cameras, you could replace the 1080p video with the raw video by using DaVinci Resolve. Again, you have to have the ISO, either the ATEM Mini Pro 4 channels and the program recording, or you have to go to the Extreme ISO, which is $1,295 to be able to go back in later. And you also have to set it to record in your Blackmagic RAW cameras. So not only can you control those Blackmagic cameras, you can set it to record from the software, then you can use that raw footage later in your DaVinci Resolve software and edit all together. So I think it's incredible. And if you have a use for it, man, go out right now and order it, because you're gonna get in a long line of people that have already ordered the Extreme. It's available for pre-order, I believe, on B&H Photo for sure, and I'm sure Adorama, and I'm sure other sites started posting it today, so you might even find it available somewhere on Amazon or the Dev Store. And again, so check out Aaron Parecki's videos. He's been such a help. I try to tune into his lives every Sunday morning where he answers questions on the ATEM Mini, so you can be with me live on Sunday morning. I'll be a guest just like you, asking questions. And if you join me there, please say hi. So again, that's available to you. So there's more than I can even cover in this video, and I apologize if this video is longer than you really wanted it to be, but I wanted to do this new item service. Shout out to Blackmagic Design. What an incredible series. So not only do they have 3 versions of the ATEM Mini now, overnight there's now 5. So 4 and 5. The ATEM Mini Extreme, which I've renamed the ATEM Extreme. I've dropped the Mini, and the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which I now call the ATEM Mini Extreme. No, the ATEM Extreme ISO, because I think it blows the ATEM Mini 3s out of the water and it answers so many questions. No, it doesn't do video yet. You'd have to use your laptop or buy a hyperdeck. It doesn't do fly-in graphics. You can do that from the hyperdeck, and that video is going to be available later here today on the links below, or you can go to my YouTube channel and you can watch that video on the hyperdeck, because I have that right now in my studio and I use it to do videos, intros and outros, and I also use it to be able to do fly-in graphics and alpha channel. And if you don't know what an alpha channel is, please check that video out. And I talk about why you have to have 2 of your inputs taken up to use the alpha version of the fly-in graphics in the ATEM Mini Pro, the ATEM Mini ISO, and the ATEM Mini, because you can use a hyperdeck in it as well. It's a great tool, so check that out. You can also record to it, and it record up to 4K 30p video, so you can use it as a recorder like many people are using the Blackmagic monitors recorders, and they're also using ATEM recorders and other brands that are out there. You can do that on your hyperdeck as well. So check that video out. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's it. I don't see any more questions. Thank you so much, Jerome, for joining me. I'd love to know where you're from and how you heard about my channel. And so again, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoy the crazy new tools that are available to us now in the world today for live streaming, for video production, as well as broadcasting. And I hope that you grow and learn, and I hope someday you teach the other people in your circle how to use these tools as well. So I want to say a quick God bless to you. Be safe. Be healthy, and thank you so much for joining me here live on Life Journey Production Studios YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time.